Hey friends, how's it going? So I'm digging into getting this channel running, and it's kind of because there's these kind of this weird lag from the beginning of the channel till right now. I feel like I need to have a video that just kind of explains some things. This story kind of reminds me of that scene in The Office where Toby is explaining his time as the on a jury of the Scranton Strangler, and he says, "Well, the best thing I can do is start at the beginning, but I think we even need to go further back than that," and that's kind of where we're at right now. Back in 2007, I began with a YouTube channel. And like a lot of people in those early years anyway, and maybe even like people now, it takes a little while to figure out what you're actually doing on your YouTube channel. So I would make videos of, my daughter or my son or messing around in the yard. I would do tutorials on art. I would talk a lot about art because I'm an art teacher. I was an art teacher for nearly 20 years. I spent a lot of time and focus on trying to make different types of videos that I felt were accurate and real and that sort of thing. And around 2011, 2012, that evolved into this video series known as the Book of Burgher. My Book of Burgher channel was really set up for a couple different reasons. I had a really good friend of mine and colleague of mine, his name's Kevin, who passed away. And I always thought he passed away of cancer. And after it really, and it still impacts me. I wanted to be able to give something to my kids, to be able to have them look back into my life and see what I was doing or see what I would think about that or what I wouldn't give to be able to pull out those old tapes or cassettes or instantly pull up videos of my parents that have been passed away for quite some time, and to be able to have some sort of a if nothing else, a virtual connection with my parents and with my grandparents, and what would have been like to go back on my grandparents' farms or their hog operations, or I had a grandfather that owned a newspaper, and he ran that, and what it wouldn't be to be the fly on the wall looking in at him work on the equipment, or my grandmother telling stories about homesteading in Canada, or all these different things that they did throughout their lives. So perhaps you're asking yourself, how did we end up in North Carolina? Throughout my teaching career, throughout my life, I lived in Iowa. And my wife, we met in 2014. She's from North Carolina. And from the very beginning of our relationship, we would talk about travel and wanting to do things and wanting to, all of these things that we wanted to do, how we wanted our life to be, what direction we wanted to go in. We met each other a little bit later in life. And, it's important to know who you're getting into relationships with. And so we had a lot of, cut the crap sort of conversations. What do you want? Here's what I want. Am I able to give you what you want? And are you able to give me what I want? When we would talk about those wish list, dream, pie in the sky ideas about where we wanted to go, her sentiment was always, I want to live in the mountains. From the time she was young, she wanted to live in the mountains. She's kind of a, no shoes on, she's got a little hippie streak in her. She's a little bit granola, so to speak. And to be fair, I guess I've got a little bit of that in me too. But I would probably say her a little bit more than me. But that's splitting hairs a little bit. But she wanted to live in the mountains. She wanted to have land. She wanted to be able to be close to her family, which is in North Carolina. And these dreams really revolved around the idea that maybe when she retires, maybe we would be able to have that opportunity to do those things. Fast forward, we get married, we have 2 kids, we settle down, we buy a house. She's got a very stable concrete job. Things happen, life happens, opportunities happen, things evolve, and blah, blah, blah. We end up with an opportunity to move into the mountains, into the Appalachian Mountains, the Blue Ridge. We have an opportunity to buy land. We have an opportunity to buy a house. We have an opportunity for her to practice what she wants to practice. And we have an opportunity for me to be able to do everything that I want to do. So basically, this is a process. The first step is to get from Iowa to North Carolina in a very slim window, while dealing with a global pandemic, while dealing with, we were going to fly people to Iowa to help drive trucks back. The airlines, we didn't want to do that. People didn't want to fly. We had to get rental cars. I was literally shuttling back and forth between Iowa and North Carolina. I was going back and forth between Iowa and North Carolina on average twice a week for about 3 weeks. I made 5 or 6 trips back and forth between Iowa and North Carolina, shuttling stuff, bringing trailers, driving trucks, taking rental cars to pick up my personal vehicle. I mean, there's a whole series of things that are kind of going on. There's like 25 irons in this fire, and it's, we're pulling them out, we're putting them in, we're readjusting and adjusting a lot of things and tweaking a lot of things. And if you've ever gotten involved with real estate or buying, selling, renting, or any of that sort of thing, that there's a different process for everything that you do. Once we decided to come here, how did we find a place to live and end up with the property that we ended up with? Before we even left the state of Iowa, we had to find a place to go in North Carolina. And so it was kind of this thing where it's like, okay, I drove out because we've got 2 small children, and we were dealing with a global pandemic and didn't want to drive with them back and forth for a weekend just to hurry up and get here to turn around and go back. It was easier for me just to do it and come back. And so that's how it kind of worked. So I drove out here and we looked at rental properties and basically found this place, which is awesome. It works. And but it's just not ours. And it didn't take us very long to figure out that okay, how soon are they going to start allowing people in the houses to show them? Because again, we're dealing with a global pandemic. And so we talked to our real estate guy, who is awesome, and he showed us around, and right away we jumped on it. So before we actually physically went out to look at these properties, we looked a lot online because of the COVID and all of the scare of everything, and just wanted to be safe and be smart about, and very methodical and planned before we just started jumping in and looked at everything. So we were very selective on what we even went to look at. Again, my wife wanted land. My wife wanted a certain style, a certain feel, a certain, these certain things of the house and the property. And so one thing led to another. And we ended up looking at, over the course of a couple of weeks, we physically went and looked at somewhere in the neighborhood of a dozen houses or so. And from those dozen, we had 2 or 3 that we really liked. Some didn't have the land that we liked. Some had land that we liked, but we didn't like the house. And then it was, time to make a compromise, time to figure it out. So we ended up with the property that we ended up purchasing, which has and will become known going forward as Burgher Acres. 40 plus acres of Blue Ridge Mountain, Appalachian beauty. Lots of trees, lots of timber, lots of space, pasture land, the little prairie area. Lots of nice things that, with the property. In terms of the house, we very much wanted it to meet certain elements. There were certain things that we needed to have in the house or we really had on the wish list of the house. And I would say that the house met the vast majority. It didn't check every box, but it hit most of them. And the other thing about the house is, and basically the conversations between my wife and I boiled down to this statement. We can add on to the house, we can change things about the house, we can upgrade the house, we can manipulate the house, we can do lots of things with the house, but there are not a lot of things you can do to manipulate mountains. You cannot manipulate trees. It's very hard to manipulate prairies or creeks or water features. It's very hard to manipulate and add to the earth. Either you have land, either you have real estate, or you don't. And so we were in a position where, all right, do we pick the dream property or do we pick the dream house? There was a house that we looked at that was, I would say, the dream house. The big vaulted ceilings, the big fireplace, all the bells, all the whistles, and all of that. But it was on, I believe, about 10 acres of property, but those 10 acres were all cliffside. Basically, your whole front yard is like acres of land that goes straight down into a ravine. Another one of those talking points that we went into when deciding to purchase the property or a property was, what kind of restrictions do we have? Are we going to be in a subdivision? Are we going to have an HOA? Are we going to have rules? Are we going to have regulations? There are a lot of acreages around and things like that where you have, land and then really great house, but you can't put in a garden. You can't have chickens. You can't have goats. You can't build. You can't do anything. I mean, and we really wanted to have autonomy to be able to live the way we want to live and do things the way we want to do them. And, when it comes to certain things, I would say that my wife and I have, we have these ideas of what we want to do. And, I look at a lot of these YouTube videos of these true homesteaders, which I wouldn't say that we are. We're not that. That's not what we are. A lot of the true homesteaders, like the hardcore people, they're raising their own cattle, they're raising sheep, they're raising a flock of goats, they've got different, birds everywhere, they've got 5 different kinds of chickens and ducks, and they got pigs for a slaughterhouse, and they've got a whole farm operation so that they can live 100% off of their own little section of the world, and we're not doing that. Maybe it'll evolve that way, but I don't think that's what my wife and I really want to do. Now, growing up, my dad had lots of words of wisdom for me, and he wasn't Confucius or anything, but he had some wisdom. And a a quote by Confucius that I do recall my dad saying to me is, if you can go down a path, and again, paraphrasing, if you can go down a path of life where you love your job and going to work isn't work, you have fun and you enjoy it, and when everything is considered, you're enjoying what you're doing, you're having fun what you're doing, then it's really not work. And that's why I got into becoming an art teacher, because I loved art. I love art. I love teaching art. I love talking about art. I love doing that, which is why I have a whole YouTube channel devoted to it. Art 101 with Mr. Burgher. Anyway, we don't want to be in a position where this farm lifestyle becomes our job, because that's, quite frankly, we like to have fun. We want to do some fun things. I want to carve out trails. I've got plans for this timber. I want to build a scale model of Ewok village. I want to build tree houses. I want some Swiss Family Robinson up in there. I want to have fun. I want to build, I want to build things. I want to do things. I want to landscape things. I want to plant things. I want to go out and enjoy the recreation and camp with my kids and have fun and shoot the breeze around the fire pit. As many may be aware, there's a lot more to purchasing a property than just saying, all right, we're going to buy it. There's a lot of things to do, So we're selling a house and we're buying a house. And then it's, making phone calls to hook up everything you have to hook up for where you're living and how you want to live and all of that. But even beyond just utilities, you're also dealing with the money of trying to buy equipment, trying to buy a house, dealing with the bank, signing the paperwork. I mean, there's a lot of things to consider when you're considering that much land and space. So when we were jumping into buying properties, we ended up making a decision. This is the house. This is the property. Let's go forward. Calling the banks. We're calling people. We're making things happen. Talking to this person. Talking to that. Here's the deal. Here's what we want. Here's what we want to pay. Do you accept it? And there's this whole negotiation of dealing with banks, dealing with people, dealing with the COVID-19 situation, global pandemic stuff. We're dealing with a lot of things and a lot of really weird situations and trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to make this work? All right. So ended up we're on contract to purchase. We're waiting on dates and tests and inspections and water samples. And, it's like they're doing just today, they're out there doing the surveying, and they've got a survey over 40 acres of land on multiple, and it's not like all 40 is in one chunk. That's all like, the land isn't all in one clump. As a purchase, there are multiple little offshoots of the land that have been parceled together. And so we're buying multiple parcels, and each one of those little fragments off of the larger mass has to be, where the house is, has to be surveyed. And so they're going to be out there for a week stomping around through the timber trying to figure out where the property lines are. And I'm sure there's probably fencing or there's some markers there, but that's neither here nor there. But the point is, there is a lot of stuff that's going on. And then it's like, okay, we just bought over 40 acres. What did we just do? What did we just get ourselves into? I'm trying to wrap my mind around, what can we do with 40 acres? And, am I going to have enough land to build a Ewok village? Am I going to have enough land to, what am I going to have land? How much space? Can I build a reenactment of Swiss Family Robinson? Am I going to be able to have you know, what am I going to be able to do? How much land are we getting ourselves into? So here it is. Here's what I've discovered. Take a football field. I think most of us in the United States have an idea of the size or volume of a football field. You put one house on the 50-yard line. You take two more houses and you put them on the visitor side. You take and you build two more houses on the home side. So you have 5 houses spread across. You take an average size house with an average size yard. You can fit 5 houses of an average size of an average yard onto a football field. A football field is about an acre. From end zone to end zone, the width, everything is an acre. So basically, we have enough room to build 200 homes in an average town. That's a lot. That's a lot of yards. Think about that. How long would it take you to mow 200 yards? Holy Moses! As I sit here and think about it, that's a lot. That's a lot of space. So yeah, we have space to build an Ewok village, or 2 of them if we really needed to. Getting out there and building and looking and seeing and putting it all together, it's going to be quite an adventure. If nothing else, to capture it for posterity, to capture it as something that my wife and I want to pass down to our children, for something that could be something that can be passed down potentially for generations. You can't get the cart ahead of the horse. I have a little bit with this channel, to be honest with you. I know that I wanted to get things going, and I want to build something, and I wanted to transition content out of where I was putting it. I want to create some new content, and but it just takes time. We started going down this process of purchasing about 2 months ago. At this point, we're in the rental mode, right? Everything that we own is in storage. Everything we have is either in a basement, a garage, a shed, or it's like over there, like just hanging out. In the near future, we got to move in. We got to get organized. I want you to see the space. I want you to see how we got it set up. I'd love for you to come on the ride with me because I'm excited about it. I hope it's gonna be fun. This is like any trip, So your buddy goes on vacation and comes back with a bunch of photos or a bunch of they post it up on YouTube or Facebook or however it is they show what they did. And there are those people like me. Like I love, there's some people like, God dang, who wants to look at a bunch of stupid ass photos from your vacation? I mean, I would. I want to see them. I want to see what you did. I want to live vicariously through you. I suppose I'm like anybody else that's on YouTube making a stupid ass channel about whatever it is we make our channels about. We're trying to gear content towards an observer. My Art 101 content is more of my formal academic pursuits that I'm interested in. Burgher Acres is a little bit more of saving and sharing for myself to look back, for reflection on what I've done and what I'm doing. When I'm older and I can't get out of the chair and all of that, I can still go back and remember or watch, stomping around, doing this, doing that, and hopefully I'll be able to do that. But more so, for my kids to be able to go back and see our family history, for my grandkids, great-grandkids, great-great-grandkids, great-great-great-grandkids, great-great-great-great-grandkids, you know, if future generations end up on this family plot, where was it? You know, creating this is like to me, it's like another art form for me. It's no different than getting a pencil or a paintbrush or a canvas or sculpting it out of marble. It's another art form. It's different, you know. Graphic design is different, Photoshop is different, but it's still an art form. And this is no different. I'll agree with myself on that one. But anyway, the point is, more content's coming. It's not going to be here. And as we get closer, as things happen, as things develop, I want you to know about it. I want you to be involved with it. This is one of those situations that's like a 99.9999999% likelihood of everything's going to go forward smooth and whatever. But, you know, you never know. You get a water test in. It's like, well, there's, you know, E. coli and deadly bacteria in your tap water. You better never drink the water if you live there. Well, okay. Or, you know, the house is about ready to fall down upon inspection. Well, okay. So you don't want to get too forward with your plans and ideas and telling people what you're doing or your plans or building a YouTube channel around it too soon. But at the same time, we're at the point where those bridges have been crossed. We only have minor footpaths to go down to get to the goal, and it won't be long, and we'll be there. Again, I'm doing it for fun. I'm doing it as an art form, as a creative outlet, as a window into my mind, for posterity, for my family, for fun, for your entertainment, for my entertainment, probably mostly my entertainment, but that's why I'm doing it. And I'm not gonna live and die and breathe on a schedule for something that should be fun. I'm not gonna hold my feet to the fire to do something fun. So please stay tuned as we start this adventure moving forward in the coming days, weeks. I don't know. It's real estate.